manches nette Mädel hab ich gut gekannt und mein Herz schon 100-mal riskiert. Auch weil ich bis heute noch nicht die rechte fand, hab ich in der Zeitung inseriert. Ich wünsch mir eine Jodlerbraut, die sich ein bisschen jodeltraut. Und wenn sie auch noch küssen kann, fang ich vor Freude zu jodeln an. Augenblicklich wär ich glücklich, wenn ich sie nur hätt, weil man stündlich küsst und gründlich jodelt im Duett. Und wenn dich eine Jodlerbraut mir zärtlich in die Augen schaut, dann weiß ich eines ganz genau, wie jetzt dich eine Jodlerbraut, die sich ein bisschen jodeln traut, wie sie einmal um sich schaut, wenn ich eine Jodlerbraut.
The Manteuffel is a Tier 9 German wonder weapon, and it's part of the most hyped tech tree release ever seen in this game, because after a full decade, this game finally has a ship capable of giving the player full control over secondary guns, a seemingly easy feature that should have existed way back during the game's initial release. Like seriously, there is no reason on why full secondaries control couldn't be implemented in this game until this time. They are no different to ships with a lot of guns, and every other naval games in existence has them, and they didn't do it to differentiate themselves from this game. Maybe Wargaming thought the player base has gained enough IQ to handle this feature, but I have suspicion that they have tested it back in 2015. I just lack the evidence to prove it. Anyway, let's talk about this tier 9 example, as it best represents this entire tech tree. Just kidding, I spent 20,000 doubloons to get this free tech tree ship so I can make a video about it early, and I don't want to regret that. The first thing you notice is the familiar hull. This is the Aegir/the O class type hull, incredibly fat, and very easy to penetrate. This is because of its 90mm side plating, thick enough to fuse battleship AP, but because it is very flat, it is not enough to bounce or shatter anything smaller. The only thing it has is the resistance against HE shells, which doesn't really matter, but that can be forgiven, because this whole tech tree is all about those juicy secondaries. The Manteuffel has 24 of them, that reloads in 4 seconds, has improved HE penetration, and has the best secondaries accuracy, giving it absurdly high secondary hitting BPM, and that's before taking fire damage into account, and before any upgrades or enhancements. They were so powerful we might as well forget about the main guns for not doing its job properly, and rightfully so. The main guns on the Manteuffel is best described as the Skrodina main guns. It is both accurate and inaccurate. It has decent overall accuracy, but there are only 6 of them, and these are the same 350mm guns found on the Anhalt. And worse of all, it doesn't even reload that quickly. So safe to say, these guns are the very definition of German engineering when put into actual practice. The only time they work is when you didn't give much thought about them. So, how does one play this particular ship, along with the rest of the tech tree? Well, to start, this is 2 different type of ship on a single hull. A large cruiser with accurate but mediocre guns, and a light cruiser. Maybe 2 of them, that won't immediately explode if you look at it wrong. Unfortunately, both of them have relatively terrible range, and as shown before, these main guns are basically ancient relic. That means the effective range of this ship is only around 12 kilometers, the maximum range of its secondaries. So how does you engage someone at 12 kilometers, which is considered point blank range in high tier games? First, you make sure to take all the skills and upgrades to get the best concealment and the best secondaries range. This will get both of them to have roughly the same range. Now, you can use that concealment to close the distance against an enemy ship. Once you are spotted, you turn the ship away, switch to your secondaries, and shoot the enemy until they are dead. You can also use the main gun for extra damage. Just make sure to only load AP. Good for punishing those who are trying to turn around. Basically, you make decisions based on what is happening within 12 kilometers of the ship, and forget about anything beyond that. The Manteuffel specifically can shoot more of its secondaries if you point your bow away from the enemy. This is a reference to the fact that despite the additions of so-called brawling ships, nothing really changes in the game. So do not chase those that were retreating, because you will be handicapped if the enemy isn't interested on pushing. You move to the closest island you can find and just stay there until someone gets into your range. If this reminds you of something, that is because it is the same stuff you would do on the Atlanta. You have to take advantage of islands or concealment as much as possible. You know that your effective range is very bad, and you know that most of your damage comes from a lot of small caliber shells. These are the constraints that prevent you from being forced to play the damage farming game, which is the fallback tactic found on many other ships. The ability to control these secondaries unlocks a few more things. You can aim specific part of the ship to set multiple fire. You can limit your detection penalty if you only shoot the secondaries, which by the way, applies the correct penalty if you shoot from smoke. And most importantly, you can blind fire the enemy smoke and finish off ships that were trying to run away. The Manteuffel looked like a low-hanging fruit from the perspective of the player, and also for the enemy. Easy to pick up and play, but it's merely an annoyance if the enemy managed to keep their distance. Having large amount of secondaries DPM is nice on paper, but in practice, it is only effective against people that were so short-sighted they are incapable to process consequences. Just like Germany, it is a very specialized ship, but unlike other specialized ship, this one has the firepower to brute force anyone that came too close, and that 12 kilometers threshold helps you decide at committing your action. If someone decides to engage you from further out, you can simply disengage, and you won't be losing much because you were not effective beyond that range anyway. But at under 12 kilometers, you have the unfair advantage that you can use to outgun most ships. That is until you have a destroyer or a carrier that relentlessly spots you. Here is the funny part. The ship goes back on using normal computer controlled secondaries if you didn't have them selected. Sure, it has shorter range, but it can shoot all of the guns at multiple enemies, something that can't be done if you take control over them. So you can use this secondaries as much as you like, but if things gets really busy, they can still work while you focus on doing something else, such as dodging torpedoes. This is how you equip the Manteuffel. You take grease the gears, demolition expert, pack a punch, and concealment. Then take superintendent, adrenaline rush, top grade gunner, and finally gun feeder. For the upgrades you take auxiliary armaments mod 1, engine room protection or hydroacoustic mod, secondary battery mod 1, steering gears mod 1, concealment, and finally auxiliary armaments mod 2. The Manteuffel may not be something that will blow the doors off high-tier gameplay with all of its limitations, and its secondaries should have been a standard feature instead of a one-off gimmick, but that simply shows how big of an impact manual secondaries does when you manage to get them working. It's reliable, it's funny, and above all else, it gives you direct agency against those on the receiving end. There is no better way to fulfill the single carnal desire of many players in this game, other than throwing random shit at the enemy and bury them under disproportionate amount of denial. Not all ship has this level of interaction, but you probably have met some of them. This tech tree is arguably better than the German battle cruiser line, as they are more flexible, but are still below those Pan-American battleships, a tech tree of overpowered secondaries battleships that people forgot, because they were currently busy bothering the Italians. So the next time you see a German pocket battleship, always remember that they will eventually be a massive headache if you let them live, and downplay their secondaries as another gimmick that you can work around.
You talk too much.